All right, we're live. Welcome. This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres, and welcome to the Anyone Can Farm Experience live chat. Today's the 22nd day, or the 26th day of September 2023. And as I said, I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in lovely Marion, Michigan. And what a day we had today. All right, so the Anyone Can Farm live chat is all about homesteading, small farms, and just plain living. And it's a time when we can come together and we can talk about some things. I am a homesteader. I live in northern Michigan. It's Marion, Michigan, as I've said. And if you are from Michigan or you know people from Michigan, the state is shaped like a mitten, right? So Detroit is down here, and I'm way up here. We're at the first knuckle on the ring finger. Well, so I guess that would be right about there, right? And then up here is the bridge, and it goes over to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which is way up there, and it's like a different state. I was up there last weekend, and or was it the weekend before last? Yeah, it was the weekend before. Well, no, I was up there. We went up Monday and stayed till Tuesday. And we went to a place called St. Ignace. St. Ignatz. No, St. Ignace. And it's just above the bridge, and it's kind of a nice little town. A lot of people just drive right past it and never even see it because it's just over the bridge. Anyway, that's where I live. I'm on a 152 acre homestead. When we started out, there were 78 acres here. And then since then, we've added the 80 next door. And that's working out really good. 20 of it is usable. 60 of it we cannot use for anything more than hunting on and walking on. We can't cut any trees or build anything on it. It's in an easement with fish and wildlife. So uh, it made it a piece of property that was not desirable to the people in this community, but to me, it is desirable. So I'm really enjoying being 152 acres. And what we do here is um, we raise pastured poultry, about 2,000 a year. We raise steers. So sometimes I buy them. Sometimes they're born from my milk cow and rotationally graze on the. We usually are 4 or 5 of them a year. We have a butcher shop on the farm. It's not a USDA shop or anything like that. It's just a home butcher shop. We Let's see, what else do we do? We have laying chickens, about 75 or so of them. We raise Mangalitsa pigs. I'm the oldest running producer of Mangalitsa pigs in the United States right now because we started doing them back in 2009, and a lot of people have come and gone with that operation. We've been able to hang in there, and I think it's partially because we have a butcher shop right on the farm, so we're able to process our pigs right here, and it cuts down on a lot of the expense. And so we can sell them at a reasonable price, and that keeps things going. It's outstanding pork, if you like pork. See that mosquito? Oh, he got away. I saw him on the screen right before I even felt him. All right, we milk a few cows, 5 milk cows. Do herd shares. It looks like we're having some issues. I'm seeing, oops, seem like your streams is having connection issues. Yeah, that could very well be. We've had problems not being able even to even get on the internet lately. So maybe this is All right. Am I restored? Can you guys see me now? All right. I don't know. And all of our people jumped off that were on. Am I on? Can you guys hear me right now? It says we're not on. Lost. Keith says we're lost. Ah, it's too bad because I can hear you off and on, says Nancy up in British Columbia. Jill, am I on? Let me know when I'm coming through strong and I'll get going. 5 people in. Bell, sorry about that. Yeah, way different. I just committed sacrilege, didn't I? Okay, Jill says she can hear me. Belva's here. Nancy's here. Keith's here. So I'll just go for it. All right, so we're a kind of a general purpose farm here in northern Michigan, and I want to tell you that. Belva's saying she can't hear. What are we going to do here, Jill? Do we want to try and reestablish the connection? Now you can. Okay. Should we? Is it working?
I'm getting you a little off and on, more on than off.
More on than off? Okay.
But you're plugged straight in.
Yeah.
So.
This is the best it gets.
It does for tonight.
You know what? Somebody could go out to the pole, you know, where the dish is, and there's a little indicator there, and it lights up.
And see what it's doing.
And see what it's at. And if you have to just tilt it back or forward, you know, and then you'll get more lights come on.
Okay.
Maybe that's all right.
Yeah, but otherwise, maybe just be concise.
Yeah, I'll just be concise. I'll be concise. Try to be concise. All right, so we're a real life farm, and I've all along I've felt it's very important to keep doing this process, and I don't really know where that comes from. Maybe it's just the Irish in me, but we have endured the test of time. This year is our 19th year. I got out of the Air Force in May of 2004, and we landed here. Already had this place picked out and had purchased it already, but the house was not livable in, and there was nothing here. There was junk everywhere. The people that were here before us, they were elderly, and they just kind of left because that's all they could do. You know, they had an adult daughter living with them, and she was a special needs type, and they were in poor health, and they just kind of took what they could and split. And so we had to bring the place up to the place where we could live in it. And at the time we had 5 kids. 5? Yeah, we had 5. And Keith was small. He was little. He was just a bambino. So, you know, there was a lot of hardship getting to where we are now. And then we've had 3 more kids since we got here. And I don't know what's been going on the last 10 years. Jill's not having any more kids. I don't know what's going on. But there were times, there it goes again, saying, oops, can't hear me. This might not work out tonight. Can you hear me still, Bella? Because this is an important message. I'd rather not be hit and miss like this. I'd rather be all on or all off. Getting interrupted like that is tough. And this message came to me the day before yesterday. Okay, Jill says I'm good. Okay, well, I'll keep going then. Maybe I should just disregard everything I read here. Just keep going. I can hear you great now, says Belva. All right. I'll keep going. The title, quitting, and throughout the Jill to hey, Brian's with us, John, to say, as a title to this. And I thought it was very important for me to let you know that we are a real live farm, because everybody here knows us. People, well, that was different. It just cut out completely. And so people can't hear. So we're because I was brand new at this, and I was seeking counsel. Like, what should I do? I was out of the Air Force anyway, and plenty of guys. And it was good at first, and then it was kind of taken over by the university. And then I didn't have the feeling to it, like the university professors mostly. And looked at them, you say, well, what do you do? Oh, this guy is in front of the classroom just and tell stuff where specific. So I think it's really important that I stay in business if I'm going to instruct, especially. And I have, some street cred. I got some time in service. I've been doing it long enough where a lot of the stuff that I share with you guys, it's tested. I have done it. A lot of times I give advice on things that I've never done. And I'll tell you that, well, I never did it, but it is very similar to this. And I can tell you that, this would be a thing to look for or all the time. But I didn't actually do that. But so I try to start the show by saying, hey, well, this is what I did today. Because I think that's important. Like, what does a guy like this do on a daily basis? What is his life like? Before I'm going to take counsel from him, I'd kind of like to know, does he really know what he's talking about? Because on the internet, there are people that make their living off of the internet right now. I've found. I never knew that before. I mean, I started making content just because it's show and tell, and I just enjoyed showing people what I was doing. And also I was getting a lot of questions about what I was doing. So we started out with, a question and answer night on, I think Tuesday night is when we started, maybe Wednesday night, I don't know. And then we went to 3-4 nights, and now we scaled it back just one night. And, but I could definitely go more, and maybe I will in the wintertime. But for now, it's going to be just Tuesday night, and then Wednesday, every other week is our consulting call, where people who are Tribe Plus members can come on a Zoom call and question, personally, hey, I'm doing, what do you think about this? And I'll give you, I'll tell you what I think. That's consulting. Consulting costs a lot of money. It really does. Because when you're gonna, and the reason for that is I have a successful farm now that I've built. Me and my wife have built. It's successful. So to jerk me out of here for the day so I can go and tell you how to be a success on your farm, and make no mistake, there's no silver bullet. As opposed to a bad costs, because if I take a day off here, if I'm not here, stuff doesn't get done. So I have to be compensated for when I leave, right? The consulting call, the Zoom call, I'm sitting down for an hour or two in the evening. I can do that. I can do that. If you're a Tribe Plus member, you got it. If you're not a Tribe Plus member and you want an hour of my time, it's $100. That's all. That's it. If you want me to go there, it's $500. See? And you might think, wow, that's a lot. Who's he think he is? Well, if you don't want my consulting, then don't ask me, But if, like I said, if I'm going to leave here for a day to travel to your farm, that's the minimum, that's the minimum. If you're in Botswana, you got to send me a plane ticket, right? And, it costs, but mistakes cost too. And you make a lot of mistakes, they cost you. I tell you all this because I want you to know that this is really what we do. It's not content of something I'm thinking about doing. This is really what I do. So I like to start by telling what my day was like. And today was a not a typical day, not a typical day at all. And this was not a typical weekend. This is not a typical year, I don't think. All right. It's just not. And I think it's good to identify that along with the message here. You can't help but seeing all the things that were on the internet about the 23rd of September. So we kind of, 23rd came like, well, I wonder, is there going to be an asteroid strike or something? Is Bruce Jenner going to go back to being a man? What's going to happen? And, you couldn't find anything that day. And we put our heads down and went to work, and it appears like nothing happened. But then on the 24th, I felt a little different, a lot different, actually. I was really off my foundation big time. And I didn't really know why. I was like, maybe I had been bitten by a rabid dog or something like that, because I was like snapping at my kids, and, they had to chain me to a tree out in front because I was just so off. I'm not kidding. I was really off. That was Sunday. And by Monday morning, I was like, what was that all about? But through that process, I learned some things, I think. There's been a lot of times when things have been rough here, and it's gone through my mind about, I'm going to quit this. What am I doing? I look at my peers, and they're not doing stuff like this. And what comes to my mind is a special forces creed, and it goes something like, I wanted to quit 100 times but I just never did. Right. So quitting the homesteading lifestyle, because this is a lifestyle, make no mistake. And once you get into it and you get comfortable with it, I wouldn't want to do anything else, honestly. I believe that this lifestyle is noble. I really do. And there's a lot of reasons why I believe that. But years and years ago, a guy gave me a book that was called America's Founding Gardeners. And it was a very interesting read. And the part in it that touched me was the rendition of George Washington, you know, and who he was. You know, he was military. But what came out in that book was what he really wanted to do. You know, what he really wanted to do. And I can relate to that because I was military for 20 years. Towards the end of my career, was that what I wanted to do? No, it wasn't. That towards the end of my career, the last 5-6 years, Jill and I had moved to a little place off the base, quite a ways off the base. And I brought home some chickens one time, chicks. And then I brought home some little pigs one time. And the place we were on had 13 acres, very dry acres in Montana. And then, so then we got a boar pig and we had little baby pigs. And, you know, then I got some steers and we were milking a goat and, you know, on and on it went to the point where I was able to get a point of view, the difference between the business that I was in the military, which is definitely the killing business, and the farming business that I was exploring, I was wading into, that was the business of life. And it was a no-brainer to me to pick one. And then I finished my 20, and so I retired. That's the way the U.S. military works. If you stay for 20, you retire and you get half your base pay, which isn't very much because they keep you poor in the military. So I don't know why they do that. They should pay us more. Maybe they do now. I don't know. So it's not enough to live on for sure, but it was enough to give me enough breathing room that I could get this farm going. Right. We left the farm in Montana and we moved to Michigan. Jill's folks live here and we're close by, and it was important at the time to be close by grandparents. It still is. Grandparents are really, my grandparents meant the world to me. Still do. They're past now, but it doesn't matter. My parents are past, but that don't matter really, I don't think. That's just the way life is, you know. I still think of them like they're still here. And I think they still guide me, honestly. And so we moved here and we really didn't know, compared to what I know now, I didn't know anything back then. I mean, I knew how to pick eggs up from underneath a chicken. Okay, I can do that. But it was pretty rudimentary, right? I'd milk the goat. So we had a lot to learn, and the learning curve was steep. But here we are 19 years later, and we're sitting on a very profitable operation. And know enough to make it profitable. And that's not my DNA. It wasn't in me, you know. It took investigation. It took swallowing my pride and talking to people and saying, how do you do this? I still have a problem with that. It took a lot of reading. Now YouTube videos, there's all kinds of that. And then there's the part of it that it's really hard to actually explain. It's more of a feat, something that I have never done before. I kind of look at the parts of it that I do know, You know, like I can get the tools together and get them all set up here. Okay, I know I'm going to need 2x4s, so I can get those. Oh, and then I'll need some nails, so I get them. Yeah, but I'm not sure how to. Well, the first board goes here, and then you just build off that. You know, it's oversimplified, but that's how it works. I just put together a sink for the new butcher shop, and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never had to do that before. I got a bare sink, stainless steel sink, and it had a big gaping hole in it where there had been a garbage disposal. And I thought, well, how is that going to work? You know, how can you? And then I thought, well, I'll cut it out and I'll put another sink in there. So I have two sinks, and I had that. I did that, and then I was going to have two sinks, and then I got it in place where it was going to go in the shop. And I looked at it and I said, I don't need two sinks. Why don't I take this cutting board and I'll trim it so it fits down in there perfectly, and then you have a cutting surface right next to the sink. So if you're going to work on something that you need to cut and rinse, perfect place, right? So I did that, and then I got to have hot water down there, so I had to get a hot water heater going, and I had to adapt the sink faucet to the water that I had brought in there, and I had to bring water in there across a concrete floor. Gee, I never did that before, but I thought it through. Like, well, I'm going to have to break this concrete out. How do you do that? You know, just so happens I was over at my neighbor's house, picking up some stanchions that he had offered me. And while I was there, I was noticed what he was doing. I saw he was cutting concrete, and he had a saw there, and it had a blade in it. And I thought, well, if I can cut concrete, so, and then I got a jackhammer. I actually purchased one because I thought, if this works, I'm gonna do this other places too. So anyway, that's just how it progressed. It's one step, one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you know, somebody comes into our facility and says, "Wow, you built this? How did you know how to do this?" It was just a step at a time. As soon as I finished this step, then I realized, well, I got to do this, and now and like getting the fittings to adapt up to this faucet today. I went into Home Depot, and these fittings were pipe threads, but they had shaved off on both sides of those threads. I'd never seen that before. And I went in there, and a friend of mine works in there, another GI, and I said, "Hey, what's the story with this?" And he says, "Oh, you want this." So he takes me right over, "You want this, and then you're going to adapt it here and here and here." So I got that done. I got all those parts together. Now I got to install them tomorrow. And we will have water in the butcher shop by Friday, because we're working in there on Friday. Now you're probably wondering, well, how have you been operating in there without water? We had a hose in there. And that's how we roll. I mean, we've been butchering in there since the beginning of summer, butchering chickens in there with nothing more than a hose. Actually, two hoses. We had one coming in from this direction, one coming in from this. And, you know, I've shared the numbers with my butchering, my chicken operation with you guys. I don't mind. Anybody can figure it out. We're an uninspected operation. We're just a home, like, farm operation. We're providing a service. It's between us and our customers, so there's no oversight or anything. People either use us or they don't. There's no third party coming in. There's no Department of Ag or any of that coming in. We're uninspected. It's perfectly legal, and it's an option to say, well, you're better off if you're inspected. But of course, you have to pay them to inspect you, and then you actually work for them because if they authorize you. So those of you that have listened to this, you know how I feel about that and why I feel about that. And that's a whole nother story. But our chicken processing business, since the beginning of summer, I don't know how many chickens we've done. I know we generally do between 150 and 200 per day. And we we work 1 or 2 days a week, depending on what comes in and gets put on the schedule. And I just show up when Jill tells me to. I'm just a cog in the wheel. But yeah, I had to build it. And we've worked since the beginning of summer in there. And even after I get this stuff installed, it won't be 100%. It'll be closer. And we get a little closer all the time. Closer, closer, closer. But in the meantime, we're making money with it. And if we don't make money with it, then nobody pays the bills. So the other way to look at this, the way people do this is they say, I think I'm going to build a butcher shop. So they go to the bank, they borrow the money, and the bank is like, well, if we're going to loan it to you, we want you to do this, this, and this. So then you're kind of working for them. So you do that, and that, and you wanted to borrow $30,000, but now you've borrowed $130,000. So then you say, we're open for business, but only 5 people show up to have their chickens butchered, and they all have two chickens. Well, you ain't going to make the payment with that. So that way of doing things, I don't think is a good idea. I think you're better off what I would call bootstrapping it. And that's you do what you can with what you have. And then you pour the profits back into the operation and improve it and improve it and improve it. And then after, our new butcher shop down there, I think we've been butchering in there for about a year. And if you went in there, you'd say, wow, this place is pretty well outfitted. We could do beef in there. We can do pork for sure. We're a seasonal butchering operation. So that means I don't run any air conditioning. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it as simple as possible. And the seasonal operations ensures that I'm not butchering cattle all year long because I don't want to. I got other things that I want to do. But if I had a huge investment down there in HVAC, air conditioning and all that stuff, then I got to make that payment on that. I got to pay that back. And that means I got to be butchering cattle all the time. And in order to do that, many people do not want to bring cattle to just some home guy like me. They want to bring it to some inspected shop because then there's government, there's government oversight, right? Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, anyway, where I'm going with this is really what we do. And the point that I want to make tonight is I wish somebody had talked to me about this when I first started this. A lot of you are getting into homesteading now, and the reasons are different than when I got into homesteading. I got into it because I had been in a business that I didn't want to continue in. A lot of my friends went to work for contractors, military contractors, and they're still doing it. They're still doing it. I didn't want to. 20 years was enough. And I think there was a shift in me. I'm not interested in new and improved and intricate ways of killing human beings. I'm just not into it anymore. I don't think I ever really was. It was like I didn't have the right options laid out for me on the table. When I was a kid, there was always, when my high school, career advisor was like, laid out stuff that was all money driven, right? And, at that time, just getting done with Vietnam. And of course, well, we're going to start another one here pretty quick. What they always do. I went to work for a aircraft manufacturer in California, Lockheed Aircraft Company, and they were building weapons of war. That's all it was. The airplane I was working on was designed to, and they'll always say, no, peace through superiority, peace through superior firepower, right? Like we've got a bigger gun. So I don't know. I don't want to be involved in it. I think that mankind should figure it out, and we can all lay down our guns and not do that. I would think they could figure that out, but there's a lot of money in war. But anyway, I didn't want to be involved in it anymore, so I chose this. And the more I'm in this, the more I see that I wish I had done this my whole life. But my previous career field helped me to have a point of view that I wouldn't have otherwise, you know. So along the way, we had rough times. There was things that happened. I wound up, locking horns with state entities. I don't want to call them government because I don't think the Department of Ag is government. I think they're contractors that work for the governor and the DNR, Department of Natural Resources. We locked horns with them over some things having to do with our farm operation. And they were big issues. It had to do with, said that our pigs were feral. And then we called them out and they said, well, they could be feral. And therefore, because they could be, you got to get rid of them because we friggin' say so. And so it forced me to look at our Constitution. It forced me to understand the law. It forced me, I already knew that mankind is, given the opportunity, is as sleazy as can possibly be. I knew that, me included, unless I really take the time to not be sleazy. But our government's not good. There's entities that are not good, and this was not good. But I learned a lot through that. But during that time, the stress was so bad on my family that it did tore us apart. It really tore us apart. There was sicknesses that came. There was just a lot of bad things that happened. And then when it was all over and we had prevailed, then they were sour grape type people, and so they wanted some friggin' payback, And I get that. And they were just waiting until I raised a hand to somebody, and then I'd still be in jail. That's how they operate. They're scumbags. Department of Agriculture is the scummiest people they can find. And DNR is not far behind. I mean, I know some of the conservation officers, they get in for the right reasons and they're good guys, but the organization as a whole, geez, I don't even know why we have it. But anyway, we went through that. And there was a time where I said, that's it. Screw this. Let's quit. Let's go do something. Let's go to another state. Let's get out of here. Let's get into something else. And we put the farm up for sale. And people looked at it, but nobody pulled the trigger on it. And it was not like anybody said, no, you want too much for that. It was not like that. It was kind of a strange deal. It just didn't sell. And so we stayed because what else were we going to do? And then we started to homestead again. We had gotten out of the commercial end of things because, as I have told you before, we were a licensed shop through the state. And then when you rub their nose in their own manure, then they go to your customer base and they say, you shouldn't buy from this guy. And they even went to people and say, you shouldn't have them butcher your chickens for you. They really did. I'm not kidding. And they executed a search warrant here, an administrative search warrant. And it backfired in their face. Nothing worked because I just wouldn't back down. I mean, it was not in me to back down. I never back down. And through that whole process, I learned never back down. But make sure you have a good position. Make sure you have a good position. Like don't not back down if you're in the wrong. Wait until you know that you're in the right, and then never back down. So that's kind of the point of this little conversation here that I want to have. that I wish someone had spoken to me about this when I was new, like a lot of you guys are, is you never want to quit. Because I'm telling you that the career field that you have chosen, and I see many of you here, I see the Cleric clan is here, Brian Jacobs clan, Ballistic. You guys all understand this. You understand this homesteading career field. And I choose to call it a career field because it is. And it can be a very noble career field. See, I don't think that I am working autonomously, like I'm the god of this. I don't. I know that these animals that I am working with, I didn't create them. And I don't believe in that Big Bang and all that. I mean, you really got to have faith to believe in that. I believe that there is a supreme being that created all of this. And when I am going with that supreme being's flow, when I'm treating these animals the way I feel he would want me to treat these animals, and fitting the processes together the way they fit together in nature, when I'm successful at that, things go well here. They go well. And I feel as though, you hear church speak, you hear people, and then I'm blessed. The Lord blesses me. Well, if you're in that, then you would understand that. But people who aren't in that would be like, what do you mean? You just wind up with money in your bank account? Or, no, it's kind of more than that. That would be a cheesy way, really, to just see my bank account grow. No, it's more than that, because this career field really isn't about dollars. That's just part of it. That's part of it. That is a limit switch for us. Like, I could make some really bad decisions, and then they're just enhanced if I have a lot of money to throw at it. Then you can really make some. It's kind of better if you're like, I'd like to buy that, but I don't know. I gotta see. I gotta count my money and see if I can. And then in the process of counting, you're like, maybe I don't really need that. Maybe I could make better, maybe I could do better without that. And I have a great example too, just happened today. But there's something about you hearing me say, this is a noble career field. You're creating food. You're creating the building blocks for life. Not creating it, you're stewarding it. You're stewarding it. That's a better way to say that. And you're working directly for the top guy. You get that? You're working for the top guy. So you can step outside in the morning and say, guide me, please. Sure. That's why I put you there. I'll guide you. I'll show you what to do. And then what happens? Well, I'll take the step. You show me the next step. Boom. Boom, boom. And you can get out of this. We tried to quit at a very emotional time when people were sick. And I was in a very agitated, continuously agitated state, right? I was in war mode, and I couldn't see anything good about this. I just couldn't. My point of view was really skewed from, and this government has a tendency to do that. They want what they want. They don't produce anything, so they're really into the authority game, and I took it seriously, and I probably shouldn't have, and I wouldn't now. Definitely. I would back up, think it through, and saying, well, you got no authority here. Piss off, That's how I kind of do it now. And I do help people with that now too. I think that's the thing to do, because I think we really need to push those guys back, like into the sea. And that's why, and you see what's going on in agriculture. Like, industrial agriculture has been failing since the day it was initiated, and now it's really a mess. and they don't even operate without taking money from American citizens to subsidize their failing operations. I don't get any subsidies. I don't need them. I wouldn't take them if they tried to give them to me. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm telling you that this is a noble career field. You're doing extremely important work. And if you look at the trajectory is if you fire an arrow and then you watch that arrow go for 2 seconds and then you shut your eyes, you can follow the trajectory in your mind and get a good idea where that thing's going to land. If you just watch the trajectory that it's going. And that trajectory might be, it's going to peak and then come down. It might be, or it's going to continue to just skyrocket. Keep going straight. The trajectory of small farming right now looks pretty promising. Why? Because the planners, our leadership in this country has been very poor. Very poor. And I think a lot of small farmers have a tendency to think they're out to get me. I don't think there's enough of them, And once you get a successful operation going, you just operate, and you learn how your constitution works, you learn how the law works, and you can operate very well without any oversight from them. And you definitely don't want to go to them and say, what should I do? Because for one thing, they're not experts. And for another thing, they love to control people. And they'll control you right into the ground. So you just don't want to deal with them at all. Look what they've done to industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture, if it were left alone and those farmers were forced to make ends meet, they would be doing a lot better. But they get addicted to that subsidy, that nice check that they get to get going. Well, I'm going to need this for the farmer, but I sure need a new that to now. So what we have to do, what I am advising at this point, and I know you're saying, well, you tried to quit. Yeah, I did. And I know the power that I lost when I tried to quit. But the boss, no, you're staying. So we stayed. Really diversified. You got cows, came again. We were in we call it like the commercial mode, where we were inspected and we were doing business with a distributor that was saying, oh no, we need this many, you're going to have to run 30 chicken tractors. I'm going to have 5 employees. And, I'm running the roads all the time delivering. And you kind of like, well, did we make money this month? I don't know. We're going to have to wait until everything comes in and settles. Oh, when's that? Never. And so you kind of look busy and you look like you're making money, but if you need $500 for something, it's like, I don't buy it. See industrial agriculture model. You want to have a good handle on what you have and where you're going. You got to have that. But you also, I'm telling you, you have to adopt the attitude, I ain't quitting. You get to a point and you say, nope, I'm not quitting. I'm not going to quit. And when you get to that point and you make that statement, the next time that something happens that seems unbelievable at the time, it's just like, now what am I going to do? Now what am I going to do? I was talking to a guy, was talking to him Sunday. He's got 7 milk cows that he's taking care of milking. He's got them at his place. He left for the day. Everything's fine. All of his fences are good. And somehow a gate swung open. And he got home and his cows are gone. And he lives pretty close to a highway. And where are the cows? It's 11 o'clock at night. He calls the sheriff's department. Has anybody seen any cows? Oh yeah. So the way he explained it, boy, I know that feeling, because my cows disappeared one time and they went to the neighbor's house, some Amish people. And it was like, oh, great. They don't have any loading. How are we going to get them home? At the time, it seems like oh no, let's just quit. Let's just run away. And then I don't know, let's get a hotel room and just run. But we didn't, and we couldn't. We had to figure out a way to get them home. So we did. Went there with the trailer, got them home. I still have those cows. I milked them this morning. It seemed very difficult at the time, but then it was like, okay, well, we don't want this to happen again. That section of fence where they're going through, was intentionally left open so wildlife could travel back and forth. I said, the heck with that. And we got the barbed wire out and the field fence, and we tightened that up so nothing is getting through there, right? Nothing is getting through there. Even the wildlife can't get through there. And so we fixed it. So that attitude of, no, I'm not quitting. Okay, you got this problem thrown in front of you. I'm going to over it, under it, around it, or through it, but I will figure it out. And then the inner beast comes out, and you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. And I think that it's important for you to do this and make sure that there are people around you that are wanting to do what you're doing, but they're able to see you. And when they say, how did you do this? You're able to say, I did it like this. How'd you figure that out? I just did, because I had a problem and I thought about it. I asked for help and I figured it out. I got it done. In New England, we say by hook or by crook. I'm going to figure it out. And there's something that happens to you. I think it's a spiritual thing when you say, I will not quit. So long as I can draw one more breath, I will stay with it. All right. So I want to talk to you about something a guy said to me one time. And I've heard it over the years, and I kind of didn't really know what it was. But it's called, the phrase that's called burning the ships, right? Burning the ships. And here's where it came from. Burning your ships dates from 1519, when a Spanish expedition led by Hernan Cortez landed in Mexico. Cortez knew his crew was already exhausted after the long sea journey, but he had to motivate them to succeed in the new land. So he ordered the scuttling of the ships they arrived in. Scuttling makes it, however, if you're in real deep water, you blow the hull out. If you are in harbor, burn them, right? So they burn the ships. That way, the men realize that there's only one way. There's only one way, and that's forward. And that's increasing. That is, whenever you're doing an operation, you're going to get to a place where it seems like, we went the wrong way. Okay. Correct your course. Get back on track, right? Because where are we going as homesteaders? Where are we going? It means different things for different people, but for me, I only have one life to live on earth, and I want it to be with my family, who I appreciate my family. I like my family. I love my family. I like being with them. I want to make sure they're taken care of. I want to enjoy my work. I want to enjoy what I do on a daily basis, what I get out of bed in the morning and what I'm going to do. And my day goes kind of like this. I get up, I put my bathing suit on and like a robe, a bathrobe. I stop at the coffee maker, kabang, I get a cup of coffee. I put a little bit of fresh Jersey milk in it. Then I come out here to the pool. Jill's already here sitting reading. I sit next to her. We drink coffee for a little bit, and then we go in the pool. And we do this year round. And then when I get out of the pool, I go into the dressing room. I put my work clothes on, and I am ready to kill. I am ready to rock. And I love it. I just love it. I mean, this morning was an exceptional day, and I think this is from the 23rd. I think people were given a choice on maybe the 24th. I think that's what happened to me. Was like, who are you going to feed here? Which wolf are you going to feed? You know that one, inside every man there are two wolves. One is gay, and the other is gay. No, I'm just kidding. That's that meme that was going around a few years ago. But it's sort of an Indian thing. Inside every man there's two wolves. Which one are you going to feed? Like there's a good one and a bad one. I think we're all have two personalities. And are you going to feed the bad one? Is that the way you want to go? Because I mean, if I did, I told my son this today. If I did, I'd be robbing banks. That's what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be raising chickens. I wouldn't be butchering cattle. I'd be robbing banks, and I'd enjoy it. But I don't want to take what's not mine, and I don't want to have to hurt civilian people. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder all the time. I don't want that. And then I just have a pile of money I didn't work for. It's like, nah, I don't want to do that. So I try not to feed that. Like I try not to look at stuff that I shouldn't look at. I try not to, covet things, and I try not to. Not easy, but you got to put effort into it. So in this case, he burnt the ships. Now, what ways can we burn the ships once we enter this lifestyle? I'm never going back. I'm never going back. Right? Sometimes I was talking to my son today, he's doing something that people talk about doing, but he did it. Him and his wife, they put together a van. They toured the United States for a couple of years. They came back. No, I don't think we'll build a house. Let's put up a tent. So they put up a yurt. I helped them. We all helped them. Put up a yurt. Paid for. He's got a good gig going. He works for himself. He's the one that did all of our video work on the Tribe Plus. And he's got a good thing going. He's got this yurt paid for like years and years ago. And he is doing work right now where if he was he's independent contractor, does photography work and drone footage and all this stuff. If he gets irritated by something, he can just dump it and go on to the next thing. People need him. He doesn't need them. So he's maintained free man status. But every now and then something creeps in where I feel like, I ought to just buy a house. Not a big house, but just a middle of the road. And around here, that's $250,000 around here. I said, yeah, and then you're a slave again. He says, I know. So how do we, I guess the question would be, well, how do you, once you get into this lifestyle, how do you burn the ships? How do you really say, I'm never going back to that lifestyle that I was in before? I'm never going back. I'm going to press ahead with this. I think that I have done that in a lot of ways because I've been pretty vocal on here. And if I went to some employer, let's say, and I wanted to get a job, they'd review some of this footage and they'd say, we can't hire him. We can't. He said too many controversial things. He doesn't fall in line with the narrative. Bruce Jenner is a beautiful woman. You know, I don't fall in line with the narrative, and I don't have to, you know. But if I want to go to work for one of these outfits and make, you know, $300,000 a year, yeah, you gotta say what they want you to say and be who they want you to be. Absolutely. I had to do that when I was in the Air Force. I couldn't just cut my hair the way I felt like it. I had to cut it in accordance with their standards. I couldn't grow a beard. I mean, I couldn't wear what I want. I had to wear what they wanted me. And I was working under contract. I knew that, right? So my bridges are burned. I cannot go back to like working contract with military contractors. I can't do that now. So I only have one way, and it's forward. And what that does to me is when I go out in the morning, and this happened this morning, I went out, and I will tell you, we have a little bit of a kind of a problem. Not a big problem, but a little problem. It's not a, I wouldn't say it's a problem. It's just that something isn't working the way it needs to work. So we're milking 4 cows. I have 5. And getting 10 gallons a day out of 4 cows. Going to be drawn on another cow that's soon. So you think, okay, well, that's generally gallons of milk per week. And we're milk shares for half of that. And I'm thinking, we need to have a drive to get more people to buy milk, right? Or is it held that we are not selling? What if we add value to that portion of the milk? Well, how do you do that? Well, you just look back in time. What did they do back in the day when they had extra milk? Oh, they made butter out of it. What else? They made cheese out of it. Well, we make butter. It's really good. I mean, a spoonful of that will set you in motion. Really good. But what about making cheese? Oh, Jill makes cheese. She makes mozzarella now really good. She makes feta really good. And another one, I can't remember the name of it right now. And then she just experimented last week and made clabbered cheese that was out of this world. I mean, you could sit down and eat a bowl of that stuff. So I came up to the house and I said, so what is it possible for us to progress making cheese? And she was like, what do you mean? Like, could we get better at it to the point where we're making cheese and then we can vac seal it and put it in the store and sell it? And if it doesn't sell, we'll eat it, you know. But instead of, you know, taking 25 gallons of milk and skimming it and then the rest of it giving it to the pigs, which isn't a waste, but it just seems to me like I'd feel better if it were somehow accumulated, the calories and then that if we could accumulate that and put it in wheels of cheese, I would just feel a lot better about that. And she was, yeah, I think so. Let's look at that. So all day long we've been thinking about it, and so we're going to see where it goes. But I would like to try and find a really high speed class and go to it, and then augment the equipment that we would need into the old butcher shop so we can make cheese in there, which we do other stuff in there too. We do cooking and stuff in there too. So yeah, we're thinking about that. But it kind of came to me because I have to find a solution, just like the guys that are in Mexico, Cortez, they probably came from Spain, right? You can't go home. You better think of something. You can make dugout canoes, but you can't get back to Spain in those. Yeah, keep at it, and once you get profitable enough, you can build a sawmill, and then you can build another ship to get home, or wait until the resupply comes, and then you can rotate out. But they're not coming for 3 years, so you better make good in the meantime. And I've had to do that where I'm not quitting. They're not going to drive me out. They're not going to. They can do whatever. They are going to have to go to extreme measures to drive me out, my enemies. And I'll drive them out first. I'm way better at this game than they are, and they know it. So, yeah, that was my message for tonight. Burn the ships, never quit, and see what happens when you adopt that mentality that I will never quit. And opportunities seem to just open up for you. So that's my message for tonight. Okay, that's it. I want to kind of give a little bit more commentary on what's been going on lately. I think that since we started this broadcast, things were kind of going off the rails. Kind of like you'd see certain things that would make you feel like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. But these days, it's one crazy thing after another. And there's a lot of narratives that get floated into the interweb, and you hear everything from civil war to world war, and all of the scenarios that they float. It's kind of like, it could happen. It could happen, and the border is open, and that's that's big time worrisome, because the only reason why you would do that is to destabilize the society. That's been done before. It's been done before. They did that in Vietnam. They displaced lots and lots of people from North Vietnam to South Vietnam, and guess what they named them? The Viet Cong. And it went from there. They were unhappy people in a foreign place, and nobody wanted them there, so they forced them into ghettos and Boweries and stuff. And then our government came along and armed them up, and that was not a good situation. And I kind of think that's what they're doing now by bringing all these people in from south of the border, and that's not a good thing. It's not a good. And so we'll have to see what happens, but being prepared is a hedge against all of those things. All of those things. And being a farmer or a homesteader, you're far better off than if you just are a guy living in town and you've got a basement full of beans and rice. And bullets, of course. You got to have bullets because you're going to have a shootout, right? You're off being an operation where you're actually what you will need the most of, and that's sustenance. If we go into any one of those scenarios, World War, Civil War, you could kind of see it. You could, I mean, and we've already been through one pandemic, and we could wind up in another one, and you're going to have the same group of people doing the same thing they did last time, but this time they're going to have to up the ante, I believe, where those of us that live on farms are going to be like, yeah, I said the hell with you last time, and now I'm saying it to you again. But this time I'm gonna be on you. I'm not gonna lay down and quite take it. I'm gonna have a good time this time, and we're so I am going through and listening to podcasts and stuff nowadays. When I get to a prepping place, I listen to it intently, and I say that's the direction to go. Any of the political stuff, I mean, do they ever do anything? I don't know. If Trump gets back in, I think what would probably happen is Mexico would be building the wall, because all the immigrants that are here are going to be like, let's go, amigo. Let's go home. At least we can get a job at home. Because, an effective government, even on the county level, an effective government would say to any of the prospective employees around here, they would say, these people are immigrants. They stole their way across the border. We feel them, but you employ, and I'm looking for you, because that's the way you would get the handle on it. So they could pass, legislation that if you employ people who are here illegally, you go to jail first, and then we'll deport them. We don't put them in jail. So it could swing the other way really quick, and these employers running profitable businesses. You continue. If you are not a prepper and you haven't any preparation, poor weather or a blackout, or forest fires or wildfires or directed energy weapons or anything like that, if you haven't made any provisions for that, I think you should. That's what I'm telling my kids right now. Another bit of information that I heard from a prepper friend of mine that's kind of big in that world, got a lot of good information, said that we're facing something that we haven't seen before, and it is a combination of methamphetamine and fentanyl that's hitting the streets. And this isn't stuff that's being cooked up in trailer houses around the county. This is the real, this is good stuff. This is manufactured stuff. And it's cheap, and it's, it really messes people up. But I guess it's really a good buzz. So that's why people keep doing it. But then they lose touch with reality the more they do it. And so then stealing just becomes sort of like their job. And it used to be that if you were going to be stolen from in a breaking and entering, they would steal, electronics, jewelry, stuff that's easy to resell and is high value stuff, cash, I don't know if you can steal stocks and bonds and move them along. I don't know. But, precious metals, guns, things like that. But now it's different. It's different. The fencing cartel is set up differently now, that they're saying, oh no, we'll take anything. Anything? Yeah. Tools, chainsaws, you name it, we'll take them. And you got to ask the question, well, why is that? And that's because the value of our dollars has gone through the floorboards. So anything that is capable of generating a gain is coming back in value. And so things that prior, well, you take something to a fence, and a fence is a guy that buys stolen stuff and then resells it into a legitimate market. You bring them chainsaws, it's like, man, what am I going to do with chainsaws? My people don't want chainsaws. Where now, yeah. So in the rural areas, especially, you have to be very vigilant these days that you could be visited by, 3-4 guys that are going to load their pickup truck with your stuff and take it. And this is happening throughout the country. So my recommendation to you is be prepared for things like that. Do what you got to do to prevent that from happening. Now, there's always somebody here, right? And typically farms are not a place where they're not the type of people you want to fool with, because they are doers and they are competent, and they usually are armed, and they have pitchforks and tractors and stuff. So they're not a good bet for going after and stealing stuff. And myself personally, I've thought those scenarios through. I have thought those through. Okay, what are you going to do? What am I going to do? And I have a plan of action that's right for me, but it might not be right for everybody. I'm more capable, and even if it's somebody that's a drug problem person, I don't want to kill anybody. You just don't want to do that. But by the same token, you don't want to become a target for a continued stream of people coming to take from you. And right now, things, we have this idea of a bad situation, like a SHTF, they call it. Well, when the shit hits the fan, well, I think it already is hitting the fan, because food is twice what it was last year, the price of it. Gasoline is twice what it was last year. It's tightened up on everybody. And for people who were tight already, if at their stage in the game of life, they're just getting their first apartment, just getting their first job, and now all of a sudden the price of fuel has doubled, and they're working, they're driving to work every day. That's tough. And so there are desperate people out there. And I did notice last weekend when Jill and I were traveling for a day, we did see that. We saw that even in pretty rural areas. Like, you can kind of tell. They're desperado type people. So I'm just saying, be careful, be prepared, think those things through. I think being armed is a smart thing. It just is. Because if you're not armed, you become a target. It's unfortunate that it's come to that. Like, I have always been against, I've told you this, I've been against arming, because it changes my whole psyche when I am armed, because then you have to protect that, and you are situation. I don't like to think about that. I really don't like to think about that. But things have gotten to the point where, law enforcement doesn't have control anymore of these vast areas. How could they? You can't blame them for that. And there are a lot of drug. So just went off again. Well, one mile from me, 3 more 2 miles away, and 3 more 3 miles away, and they are brand new, and it's all corn and soy. Yeah, you're over in the thumb, I think. Cortez killed Montezuma and the whole tribe because of cannibalism. Ooh. Tutu Burger, have you been farming all your life? If not, how did Cap I build yourself a farm? Well, I borrowed money to buy this farm, that's for sure. Like anybody buying a house. But I had good credit, and I had sold our old farm, and I made quite a bit of money on it. I purchased the place. It was run down, and we paid like $90,000 for it. 13 acres with a beat up old house on it and an old barn, and we fixed it up. We built quite a bit onto it, and then when we sold it, we made $45,000. So I was able to. I came here with those proceeds, and then, had a mortgage, and then part of the property that we have right now is not mine yet. I'm paying for it. I still have a mortgage on it. The last 80 that we purchased. And I am 63 now, so I paid into Social Security for my whole working career, and I never drew one Social Security check. It went direct deposit for the land next door. I never seen any of that money. And I think that's the way to do it, because if I did get that money, a lot of guys will get that Social Security money that you paid into it, so you got it coming, and then they'll, wow, get me a new pickup truck. That's smart. But for some people it is. I mean, if they want to pull a fifth wheel or something like that, and they really want to be me, I like working, so I still have a young. I didn't burn my 25-year signed business, but it's definitely collecting dust in the basement. I mainly do it for bartering these days. All right. Ghost says lucky 13 on the like button. Lucky 13. Are we getting likes here? You guys hitting the like button? I don't see them. It doesn't show up on my screen. I just see how many people are on. But we never know how accurate that is. All right, Crunchy's with us. Just got back from the build site pouring concrete. Right on. Ghost says a dog and a gun. That's all you need. Is that for security? Yeah. Ballistic. It's death culture and it won't last long now, but over 100,000 million. That's a big number. I wonder if you mean that because of the COVID-19 or the antidote. Acting up, not being professional. I really have a hard time with that. But I think it paints, when you see one or two acting up, it paints a broad picture on all of them. And it's not the case. It's not the case. For you to want to be a cop, it starts out because you want to protect and serve. And then as time goes by, policemen, they get jaded and they're dealing with the fourth jerk today and they just kind of lose it. And the guy happens to have a camera on him. But we need, I don't really interact with the police at all because I just don't need to. I mean, the only thing would be if I'm driving. And I wonder if, like, we had no police, it's bad enough with some of the idiots on the road. It's bad enough. You're passing all these people when you're driving, and then you stop at a gas station, you're in there getting a cup of coffee, and then you see somebody get out of a vehicle that comes in, you're like, you drive? You were the people coming the other way? I mean, society has gone downhill. It really has. We went to a gas station to get a cup of coffee earlier today, and it was like, holy smokes, these people don't even look adult. They're young. I just mean they were a real life display of poor decision making, very poor decision making, continual. And how is it that they're driving a $50,000 vehicle? I couldn't figure that one out. You see that all the time, though. I just don't know how that works. Oh, Ballistic, you were talking about abortion. Yeah, that's a sicko. That is bad. I mean, that is bad. All right, well, let's end it for tonight. We've gone an hour and a half. I think I made my point. Appreciate y'all. Please hit the like and share button. We'll be back again next Tuesday. Kind of thinking about some things for the winter as far as cyber and coming on and communicating. Who knows where we'll be then as a society. So we'll leave our options open. We'll see what we're going to do. We do have the Homestead Hog Harvest coming up in November. That's November. Let's see. I think it's. Let's see. I'll tell you in a minute. November 4th, 5th, and 6th. Starts Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh no, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And this is where we start with live pigs, and we go through the whole process. Live pigs, and when we finish, we're making bacons, and we're stuffing sausages. You can see a lot of the pictures from classes that we've done in the past. We've been doing this a long time, have it down to a pretty good class that we feel it hits the points that you need to go home the very next weekend and kill your own pig, do table fare. Might not be the greatest, but the next time you do it will be better. And the time after that will be better, and so on and so on. You'll always get better as you're doing it. And if you can butcher a pig, you can probably butcher a chipmunk. or a dachshund or a cow or a deer. They're all kind of the same, but they scale, And it's like anything. The first time you do something like that, you're human. It's just, it's nice to have somebody walk you through it, and then you're ready to do it yourself. It's a skill that you have in your toolbox that can change your attitude. It can give you life when everybody isn't doing well. You'll do well because you can butcher, right? So I'm a big proponent of when we enter into some sort of process, like we're going to raise goats, we should know how to do everything there is to know about goats. And end of life for goats means life for us. So, and I don't hate goats anymore, okay? A lot of people think I hate goats. Who could hate a goat? We have 2 goats. Okay, did I miss anything? Okay. Brian Jacobs, I'm bartering painting a barn for a cow this winter. A live cow? Or is it one you're going to have to butcher? Right on, man. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Appreciate everybody coming by. Remember, anyone can farm. And get out there and get after it. Good night.